The following review may contain spoilers. The sets and effects all look great. The fake clouds and the overhead shots of the bizarre cookie-cutter suburban town. It feels like a fully realized vision, like it was very close to what the filmmakers might have had in their heads to begin with. There's a strange, creepy tweak of the child's voice. Not sure if it's the child's actual voice that's altered with effects, or another actor's voice altogether, but the effect is creepy and disturbing, and I'm not sure if I've ever seen something like this in a movie before. The actress Imogen Poots is excellent. This is the first time I've ever seen her in a movie that I can recall. She gets to the truth of what the character would do in these situations, but also kind of adds like a slight hint of weirdness to the performance to match the tone of the movie, so an excellent performance here. I'm not the biggest fan of Jesse Eisenberg. He's good in comedies like the Zombieland movies, but in dramas he often resorts to face making, furrowing his brow or something like this. In this film there's a scene where he's supposed to show anger, and he actually trembles and it looks really fake. He's not on the same level as Imogen Poots, and this is evident in the characters' death scenes. They each have a separate death scene, and in Imogen Poots' scene, she clearly looks like she's exhausted both physically and mentally. In contrast, Jesse Eisenberg doesn't authentically convey exhaustion at all, even though the two characters have basically gone through the same ordeal, and Eisenberg would have been even more exhausted since he was digging a giant ditch for like half the movie. The two actors also did not have good chemistry. They just did not look believable as a couple. Jesse Eisenberg looks much younger and less mature. He had the vibe of a college kid, not someone who's about to purchase a home. One other criticism, the movie could have been scarier or creepier. They decided to go with very bright lighting during the daytime scenes, but since the suburban world was fake with fake clouds and sun, etc., they could have chosen to be more stylish with the lighting. I think there could have been something visually that helped to create a darker or more disturbing tone throughout the film. Since this film is an allegory about suburban life, the boredom of marriage and raising a family, etc., I'd like to add a section with my analysis on what I think some of the elements of the film are supposed to represent. First, there's several shots of bland, tasteless food that's delivered to the couple in the film. I think this is a comment on how suburban life is so devoid of culture that they're eating the same bland food every day and not able to eat food from other cultures that might be different or exciting or interesting. Second, the two characters can't leave the neighborhood. They drive around in this loop. I felt like this was symbolism for being stuck with a mortgage you can't get out of. Third, the scenes where the little boy screams for food. This is probably the stress of dealing with all of the child's demands. It's in the place of a normal child crying or whining, but replacing it with an ear-piercing scream amplifies or exaggerates it in order to capture the stress of a parent having to deal with this day in and day out over and over again, that it might eventually just feel like a piercing scream after a while. Fourth, the black and white patterns on the TV. I felt like this would represent like new culture, music videos, television, etc., and the culture gap between the kids and the parents. The stuff kids are into these days is so different from what parents were into when they were children that the parents might as well be looking at black and white squiggly lines because it's so alien to them. I can imagine today's parents watching their kids playing Fortnite and not having a clue about why it's so interesting. Fifth, Jesse Eisenberg's digging. I think this is a take on a father getting tired of mundane family life quicker than a mother. The digging could represent like a father's way to deal with his boredom, like maybe he's having an affair, a gambling addiction, drinking excessively. In this film, even the rhythm of how he wants to quickly get out of the house as soon as he's done eating hints at a situation like this. He wolfs down his food, picks up his plate before anyone else is done, and tells his wife that he's going digging. It feels like he wants to rush out and maybe meet his mistress, go gambling or whatever. And then abusing habits like these, he might end up harming himself in the end, hence the digging his own grave metaphor, as Eisenberg dies in the film and then is placed in the very hole he was digging throughout the course of the movie. 6, there's the scene where the little boy imitates the alien and 2 huge balls emerge from his neck. This might be the easiest one to decipher, as it most likely represents puberty and, of course, testicles. The fact that the very next scene has the grown adult version of this character would add even more support. And the thing that started the scene, the random book the boy brings home, has artwork of those bulging areas of the neck, and then a shot of like 2 parents and a child between them. It all looks like some bizarre sex education textbook. 7th, at the end of the film, the boy just coldly zips up his parents into body bags and buries them. This might represent how in modern society, adult children don't seem to care about their aging parents, like shoving them into an old age home or something like that. Finally, I wasn't sure what the number 9 meant, the address number on the house. I googled that to see if I could find anything and found an interview with the director Lorcan Finnegan on Collider, where he mentioned some fan theories on the internet like 9 months for childbirth. And then he gave his own idea that the 9 represents an endless loop. Living this boring married suburban life might feel like an endless loop, like you're living the same days over and over again, so I guess that was his intention for that. My final rating for Vivarium is 3 stars. As of the making of this video, the Rotten Tomatoes percentage for Vivarium is 72%, which is just about right. Vivarium is a solid allegorical tale of suburban boredom, a lot of inventive ideas, and although I only gave it 3 stars, it's definitely one of those films that might be worth a rewatch.